morning, grade 12 students. Welcome to our philosophy class. But before I start my lesson, I'd like to have a little panning of the vicinity of Mary Help. And I know that you miss Mary Help a lot since the lockdown. Okay? So let's have a panning first of Mary Help. Okay? So these are the places that you miss. Okay? So since you cannot go to Mary Help anymore, and this is not a virtual background. Okay? So this is our senior high building. Okay? And before I proceed with my discussion, okay, which is the human person as a lover, okay, I'd like to ask this question: what comes into your mind whenever you hear the word lover? Because nowadays, our society gives negative definition to the word lover. Okay? Usually, it pertains to illicit relationships. In a Tagalog word, no, it's like kabit or something that is, secret relationships. But what do we really mean by the word lover? We will be delving on it as we start with our lesson in philosophy, the human person as lover. Okay, so sit back and relax as we discuss our next lesson, the human person as lover. Okay, for the Greeks, there are three words for love: Eros, Philia, and Agape. Okay? And I'd like to differentiate these three Greek words. Okay, first, what is Eros? Okay, when you say Eros, it refers to the passionate, intense desire for something. Sometimes it is referred to as a sexual desire, but it's something more. Thus, it cannot be totally reduced or equated to it. For Plato, Eros is a common desire that seeks transcendental beauty. The particular beauty of an individual reminds us of true beauty that exists in the world of form or ideas. So in short, Eros does not only pertain to sexual desires, but it is love for another person or beauty. Love for our physical bodies, like abstract beauty, love of beautiful activities, love of beautiful intellectual activities, and love of absolute beauty. How do we differentiate Eros from Agape and Philia? Eros is dependent upon the situation and circumstances. So you only love a person if she is young, beautiful, and intelligent. But what if the person is already old? Eros is also held captive to each person's perception. Okay? So how do you define beauty? Okay, so you have your own perception on how you get attracted to a particular person. It always depends on the situation and on the person's perception. And Eros needs discipline, purification, and growth in maturity in order not to degenerate or deteriorate into pure sex becoming a commodity. Because nowadays, this is our problem in our society. We tend to look at the person externally on what they can give, if they're beautiful, if they're intelligent, and they only pertain to love as expressed through their sexual relationship. But love is more than that. We are now inside the gymnasium where you usually have your games. You see, they're all empty. Okay? But anyhow, my second definition is Philia. What is Philia? That is a kind of love that entails fondness and appreciation of the other. That is the kind of love that we usually give to our friends, our appreciation, our fondness to another person. This is the love of friends and the fellowship of being with those people you enjoy, or in short, your barkada. Okay? And for the Greeks, the term philia includes not just friendship, but also loyalties to family and other political community, job, and discipline. And for Aristotle, there are three categories of philia. First is the friendship of pleasure. Second, friendship of utility. And third, friendship of goodness or virtue. Let us first define what friendships of pleasure means. It is when you and another person are friends because of the direct pleasure your friendship brings. if you have the same K-pop idols, the same K-drama, the same likes, the same food. Okay, that's friendship of pleasure. The second, according to Aristotle, is friendships of utility. And this is characterized by the gain or tangible benefit, either economic or political, you get from the relationship. Okay? So in short, you are getting some benefits or gain from the person. It is when you treat person as something that you can use. Okay? Remember our lesson? It is like an I-it relationship. Okay? You are just using a person for your own benefit. And the third is friendship of goodness or virtue. It means that both people admire the other's goodness and help one another strive for goodness. Aristotle defines love as benevolence or act of willing the good. It is when you desire what is good for your friend and you are no longer thinking of yourself, but you are engaging in this friendship for the sake of goodness or virtue. The third word for love is agape. So what is agape? It refers to the paternal love of God for human beings and for human beings for God, but is extended to include a brotherly love for all humanity. An example of this is the kind of love that the saints have for those who are in need, the poor, the uneducated, the marginalized. Just like St. John Bosco, when he took care of young boys who were unemployed, who were left all alone by themselves, and were committed into doing some vices. So Don Bosco educated these poor street children because that is an expression of his love for God. The foundation for Philia is from Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. It says there, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, and loving thy neighbor as thyself." According to Aristotle, self-love is a prerequisite in loving others. Let's say, for example, with our frontliners, especially our medical frontliners, because there will come a time that their energies will be depleted and they get burned out. That's why it's so important that they also take care of themselves. That's why nowadays we have what it means, or what they call it, the self-care. Because once you're not able to take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of others. And with Aristotle, he is clear in his work in the Nicomachean Ethics that as long as you love yourself, not just for the sake of loving yourself, but for the benefit of others, it is something good and even virtuous. And in our Christian faith, God loves us all unconditionally. God's love is boundless. God does not love us because we are handsome or beautiful or intelligent or rich. It doesn't matter. In God's eyes, we are all equal and He loves us unconditionally. God said, "I have called you by name. You are mine, because you are precious in my eyes and glorious, and because I love you. Fear not, I am with you." That's from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 1, 4, and 5. Okay, so let us first differentiate between infatuation and love. So love is not infatuation or falling in love. And falling in love is not merely an act of the will. Falling in love is more than an emotional response than a conscious choice. By the name of Ray E. Short, okay? He tried to define what infatuation means. Actually, he made a differentiation between infatuation and love. He said that with infatuation, what is the major attraction? The main interest is the person's physicality. If the person has a flawless skin, beautiful eyes, good height, medium build, so it's more on what is physical. What about how many factors attract? Relatively few because it is merely confined in the physicality. And how did it start? It tends to start fast. In infatuation, the level of interest comes and goes. And how does it affect your personality? It makes you more disorganized and it has destructive effect. You're no longer able to focus with your studies because you got infatuated with another person. How and when does it end? Very fast. It stops in the same way it starts. How do you see each other? As if you are living in a one-person world. As if that person is the only thing in your world and the others don't matter anymore. And how do others view you too? Few or none of your family and friends approve your relationship. That's why you hide this relationship. It becomes a secret relationship because nobody approves of that kind of relationship with a person. What the distance do? It dies with distance. How do quarrels affect romance? Quarrels kill the relationship and they become frequent and severe. In infatuation, the person becomes restrictive and selfish. You are very jealous of the person, that if the person whom you love is talking to another person, you get too jealous. You became selfish, and that's a sign that it's infatuation. What about your overall attitude? It is concerned with what one could get from the relationship. Okay? So a person is only continue according to Ray E. Short. The main interest is love is the person's total personality. So you are no longer confined on the beauty or the external beauty of the other person, but you are more in love with the person's total personality. Okay? And how many factors attract? Many or most of the qualities of the person. You love the person whether that person is very good or not so good. But you're able to love the person unconditionally and accept him or her for who she is. And how did it start? It starts. A person is only after the body. What about the level of interest? If it's love, it is then consistent. And how does it affect your personality? You became more organizing and constructive. You became more inspired to study because you love a person. How and when does it end? It stops slowly. How do you see each other? Expanding the world to include your beloved. So you're no longer confined on the person, himself or herself, but the entire world of that person. His set of friends, his family members. Okay? So his likes or dislikes became your likes and dislikes also. And how do others view you too? Most of your friends and family members approve because they know that that relationship will not harm you. What does distance do with love? It still survives even if it's a long-distance relationship. In spite of separation, physical separation, love still exists because it is true love. And how do quarrels affect romance? Love lives through quarrels and tends to be less frequent and less severe. Just like with your parents, it's not a smooth sailing relationship all the time. There will always be quarrel because that's part of any relationship. But love will never be affected because you love that person in his or her totality. In love, you care more about the other. So you are no longer that jealous compared when it's infatuation. And what is your overall attitude with love? You are concerned with what a person could give to the relationship. You are more involved on what you can give to the other person than on what you can get from that relationship. That is what true love is. And lastly, love is not dependency. It seeks to receive rather than to give. It nourishes infantilism rather than growth. When you're able to give without waiting for anything in return, and when you are growing in that relationship, then that's a sign that it is true love. and not merely infatuation. So to love is to will the good of the other. So you're always after what will be for the good of the person because you want that person to grow more positively. According to St. Thomas, true love derives less from emotion and more on decision. To love is to make an act of the will. So it's no longer based on what you feel, on the emotions, but it is an act of the will. Actually, the word love is derived from the Italian word volere, meaning to will. Meaning, you will to love the person for he or she is. And as I've said, no, love is not only no, between the opposite sex, but it can also happen to your family members, to your classmates, and to those persons who are in need of your help. I'd like to show this picture of two old couple. And in spite of their age, even if they are already advanced in age, they still love each other. And hopefully, they are faithful to each other. That's why love is a sustained choice. Whether you feel it or not, just like with our parents, it doesn't mean that they are always on the cloud nine or they always have these killing moments with each other. But in spite of the quarrels, in spite of the differences, love is a sustained choice. According to Scott Peck, love is the effortful act of the will. It is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own spiritual growth and another's spiritual growth. According to Deus Caritas Est, love is the gift of self. It is self-sacrificing. It is when you are capable of letting go of something that is dear to you for the sake of the other. Then that is true love. Love is also historical because the other, who is the point at issue in love, is a concrete, particular person. So you are in love with that person who exists in the here and now. Love is also total, eternal, and sacred. So it is not just a one-night stand relationship, but it's something that is eternal. That's why if it's really true love, the couple would usually commit themselves to one another through the sacrament of matrimony because they are able to let go of themselves in order to embrace the other for who or she is. Are they sure of what will come in the future? No. But what they are certain of is the love that they have for each other. So when you say that love is total, love is an undivided commitment to the other. Okay? There is no such thing as a third party if it's really true love because they are committed and they are faithful to each other. And it is offered from the totality of my being to the totality of the other's being. Love is also eternal. So the gift of myself to the other is not given only for a limited period of time. With true love, you cannot just say, I love that person for 1 month, 6 months, for 1 year, for 5 years, or until further notice. With true love, it is something that is eternal and it implies immortality. Take a look at the fidelity of our grandparents and even our very own parents. Even if their life is not so perfect, but they still choose to love each other unconditionally. Love is also sacred. Since love is the gift of a person of his or her own self to another person, their relationship is also sacred. That's why, if it's true love, they are capable of placing God at the center of their relationship. They are capable of placing God at the center of their family life because for them, love is sacred. And I'd like to conclude with the Word of God coming from the first letter of St. John, chapter 4, verses 16 to 18. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love, because perfect love drives out fear. Because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love.